That's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And it's a dull day.
It's kind of one of those strangely pale days.
We've entered into another time and another place and another...
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's not dark, cloudy, and brooding.
In this strange world, Idaho is behaving very scaredy-pants-like.
Well, we all thought we were kind of the rough,
We
tough,
like to think that Idaho
Wild
still had
West.
some cowboy in
Yeah,
it, but
no, none.
Cowboy has turned tail and fled. So we're just here in Idaho, not living up to our own expectations.
No. The governor just announced it up that we have to stay at home for another 15 days. Yeah.
The part that's so bad about this, and I know we may have listeners who fall in all places on this idea, but you have to understand that Idaho is, in the entire state, had 11 new cases yesterday, and he has given us 2 more weeks of solitude just to double check that we're not having more.
Last I heard, we still only have 3 cases in the whole county.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking it up.
It never got higher than 3, everyone.
Yeah, we've made it to 3, and we had 3, and in spite of the fact that our hospital had set up a shantytown extra hospital for all of our influx of disease, we have 3 people in our county with it, 12 in the neighboring county in Whitman, and nobody in either county in the hospital.
Yeah.
So we have succeeded in overdoing it, is what we have done. We are out of control. Anyways, I was telling Becca, I feel like this is that moment where, like all classic heist movies, the lights have gone out, and when they come back on, we'll find we're not wearing our family jewels. The family jewels in this case being our religious liberties, our freedom to gather, our rights to free speech.
Although, speaking of freedom to gather, that is what we did do last week for Easter Sunday.
So good.
You should tell them about your big preparatory works that you were up to, because...
Oh, oh my word, I'm yawning. Sorry. It's that kind of a day. We did a drive-in service. We did a radio broadcasted service while everybody stayed in their cars. And we prepped communion. So we had little bottles of Sutter Home and communion cups and a slice of bread in a Ziploc type thing in boxes. So then the elders distributed the boxes to the cars, and then the people in the cars distributed it to the people in the cars.
It was so moving.
We've never done any honking in church at all, and we did a lot of it this time. It was like when he said he is risen, and everyone said he is risen indeed, and then everyone felt like they needed to honk their horns because they were concerned that the other cars might not know that they were enthusiastically answering. And it was lovely. It was a absolutely wonderful, wonderful thing.
It was so memorable. Like, not just because it was Easter. It's like, that was just an interesting...
It was memorable because it was really meaningful. Because everybody really...
So many people
needed to gather with the saints to worship. And we did. And that was what was really wonderful.
I loved it because I felt like it's clearly shaking everything up and forcing everybody to, like, by golly, we have to make this happen some way or other.
Yeah.
And it ended up like we were out at this little private airstrip for crop dusters, going past the planes and the tractors and parking, looking at this beautiful, huge hill. Dad preaching out of a... What was it?
Some kind of a trailer. It was like a trailer hitch of some kind.
It was just so great.
With our communion being handed out by men with orange gloves on and
it was so
carrying big plastic bins full of boxes. It was very different. But one thing that I thought was really interesting is that I was surprised to find that there is actually a significant difference between watching the same service as other people from your own home and bothering to gather even in a very complex and difficult way. Like the fact that everyone was like, stay in your cars. If you have to go to the bathroom, you'll just have to go home. Like, that's how it is. That even with that, there was a real world of difference between worshiping at home and gathering with God's people.
But even there, I felt like the previous weeks where we were doing it at home, it was not the same as just listening to a sermon on a random day. You know what I mean? And
this is interesting for us because our church does not live stream our service.
No.
And we have been in this time.
Yeah.
But we do not as a matter of principle, because they do not want people to believe that listening to something in your home is the same thing as gathering with God's people, and they don't want to live stream things like the communion and stuff, that it should be done in person.
Right.
So we share the sermons from our church, not the whole service, which is to say that this is your big chance if you were wanting to come to a whole service of our church. This is your big chance when you can come visit our church, because this is the only time. If you can come in the flesh, it won't be on the internet. So that's how it is. Anyways, so that's what we did, and it was a wonderful thing to gather with people, even though we were just honking and waving at each other. Everyone was very blessed by the fellowship.
And we're doing it again.
Yep.
This week.
More driving into church.
And we'll see what happens if our governor decides to all let us come back out in the front yard again or not.
Right? We're all asking ourselves, what is happening?
Yesterday, I finally hit the skids of, I was wandering around the house going,
what is it for? Did your double bounce wear out?
I felt like it was
my double bounce is a thing of maybe historic interest, but it is no longer fresh in my mind.
Well, the thing was, yesterday I kind of was shuffling around feeling like it was a lump in the gravy, sort of. It was not sort of a day, but...
No, not a lump in the gravy. It would be one of those times when you're cooking and you're doing it wrong. So what happens is you're like melting butter in a saucepan, and then you realize it's the wrong size. So then you transfer it to something else, and then so it's the kind of time when you get a lot dirty, but you get very little done, but you got a lot messed up. Yeah. And
so that was my yesterday. I was not nailing it. I was feeling like, what's even happening and what's the point?
Yeah.
But
my new
I'm back
routine,
on the horse.
My new regime is to wake up in the morning and go, what's happening today? What is this day? What is it about? And then I go, oh, right. It's about nothing. Nothing is happening today.
It's very funny.
There is no plan or solution. We have a good view. I'm taking a picture of our view
yeah, it's pretty. Actually, we're kind of sitting here overlooking right where we had church last week.
Yeah, you're right. We're on the other side of there.
Yeah, but anyway, so I'm trying to get back on my enthusiastic wagon here and get some stuff done.
Rough. It's rough on the enthusiastic wagon.
Update. I have 3 drawers in my kitchen now. Count them. 1, 2, 3. It's kind of a big time.
It is pretty big time.
Yeah, it's big.
She's moving up in the world.
I put some tile up on the wall that I got fired.
I've been most grieved by having nowhere to donate all my junk.
That has been
clogging up my life systems in a bad way.
I'm struggling there too, because if only we could throw it somewhere.
Well, it feels like the stuff that shouldn't be thrown away to me, but is nonetheless. And then our dump was closed, which was just rude. Yeah. Just like, not only should you stay home in your garbage, with your garbage. We don't want to help you with that. But they did help us. I mean, that's because we're in the county and we take our garbage to the dump instead of whatever. It was a big pain, but I think we got past that.
I tried my sourdough starter again, everyone. It's 2 days old now. It's looking not luscious. I'll have to fill you in on whether
you're so bad at it.
Sourdough 2.0, whether it works.
I've been making more. I've been just doing experimental sourdough.
Well, I guess me too, but so far?
No, I mean, I've just been off in a new branch of sourdough work, experimenting with 80% hydration, which is really wet. So I've been...
Is it making you happy?
Weirdly, I get a lot of joy out of, doing whatever experiment. I said when I started making sourdough that I thought it would take me 5 years to get to know it. Mm-hmm. And I think that we've taken the next step in our relationship, but I think I might have underestimated how many years it was going to take me to really know it. I'm comfortable with it, but I am not 1,000% sure what it's about some of the times. Right. But I've been really enjoying it. My new reckless techniques have involved me just mixing up the dough and then leaving it on the counter overnight, and then sometimes I stretch it a few times and then leave it on the counter overnight, or then I do, but it's really been good bread, so it's been fun.
Yeah, that's quite good.
Yeah, the interesting tidbit, I have just gonna delve into some crafting nuances, but here's what's happened in my life on multiple fronts. Okay. And some of you listeners may have this experience, so might be whatever.
Might resonate.
Yeah. So I dislike when I don't know the right way to do something.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have to do it the right way, but I want to know what I'm sinning against.
Sure.
That's the thing. I want to be aware. That's kind of like what they say about poetry. You need to know the rules before you can be allowed to break them.
Well, I was going to say it's Oscar Wilde saying a gentleman never offends anyone accidentally.
Right. And the thing is that I always just have felt like you need to kind of know what you're dealing with in order to know if it's grievous or not what you've done.
Okay.
Well, this is why I was really put off of crochet for many years when I was younger. One of my early crochet instructors, I don't know, I just remember this discussion this is pre-internet. I always have to say that because now there's no excuse for not knowing these things. But then it was more complex.
Yeah.
And I was like, but which hole do you stick the hook in?
Yeah.
And the person that was allegedly going to teach me,
I think that horse just bit the other horse. I'm not joking. I think
he
just chomped the other horse's neck.
They seem in charity with one another, so...
Well, they did until that happened.
Yeah, but look at them. They're just still in charity. Well, either that or they're going to have a fight now.
I think there might be some passive-aggressive stuff going on.
Yeah. Some horsey business.
Anyway, this person
was
track
like,
them.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
You just stick it in whichever hole you want to. And I felt like it can't be
Surely
so.
Not.
It can't be so. And it was like, do you put it like this? And I was like, that'll work. Or do you do it like this? Sure, you could do that too. So it wasn't until years later when someone was like, no, this is what it means. And they showed me this is the place where you do it. And you do it this way if it says the front bar or whatever, and this way if it says the back. And I was like, well, see, I thought there was a rule. And then after I knew that, I was much more comfortable with crochet. But the side of it that was just sort of like, oh, you just sort of whiz around trying to whatever you think.
Making
and it'll happen.
Rumpelstiltskin of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So the other field where I've always been this way is quilting. Because I've always felt like there's a deep, deep world of sort of the precision engineers that do quilting.
Yeah.
that is not my scene. It's also true about weaving that people weave either because they love to engineer things or because they love color and texture, and obviously I'm sure some people do both, but there is a world of weavers that are all about the puzzle, the puzzle engineering side of it. The mathiness of it is the part that they love most. And anyways, but quilting, I always had this idea was like I know that I made it even more. I know that when I tried a quilt block at one time, I was so set on. I mean, I was probably in high school, but I was so set on getting the precision that I ironed just the junk out of every piece, but I think I stretched and warped it monstrously in that effort. I didn't think about the fact that you could misshape it.
Right.
While you did that. So I think and then it gets this air of the elusive impossibility. Like it's impossible to cut fabric to the right size and keep it the right size.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to steam and stretch every little bit of it into terrible shapes and then try to make the seam. And anyways, all of this is to say that I did a friendship quilt. We're working on it still, I guess. I'm halfway done with it. It's the quarantine. And I all of a sudden have some mental click. I have quilted things. I have sewn different things through the years. I didn't let it kill me that I didn't feel competent in the field of quilting.
Okay.
But all of a sudden I feel like I figured out some element of the puzzle where I was like, nice. Oh, I get it. I see how this works and why we do this. And then, because little things like which direction to iron the seams, or when they say iron the seam open, they don't mean iron the seam open. They mean open on the right side. I see these are the kinds of things that I'm telling you. One that I got for years. This is not that fascinating. There's a knit direction that is pick up and knit stitches. So it'll be pick up and knit 10 stitches down the side of the heel, the back of the heel. So it's a place where you have to get new stitches going. Well, that direction, pick up and knit, seems pretty straightforward. You're okay, I need the stitches on my needle. I should pick them up and then I'll knit them. Okay. Right? You're I get what you're talking about. I'll pick up and knit those. Okay. For years, I had these slop sauce pick up and knit sections where I would look at it and just be that's just a mess. I should try this, or I would twist it, or I would do all these different things. And then, guess what happened?
Found out the right way?
Yeah, I one time went ahead and looked it up. What do they mean when they say pick up and knit? And it was nothing like what I was doing. It was a really simple, much easier, straightforward, looked a billion times better when you finished. And I had to marvel at the dumbness of having toiled around with it without finding out the right way to do it for a long time.
It is always a real blessing when you finally get that little piece.
Yeah, so either way, I bought more fabric for another quilt top.
Well, nice.
That's what happened.
Well, I got my quilting fabric out of the basement, the stuff that I designed years ago.
Why didn't you give it to me when you did that?
Oh, yeah. It's sitting in a stack in my front room on the bolts. That's as far as I've gotten. And I don't actually want to quilt out of it. Because the thing is I didn't design it for that. It is quilt fabric, but I designed it for girls' dresses because that's what I was doing at the time. And it's just, I'm going to put it back in the basement.
Well, the one that I bought the fabric for a different one because I just now I have my attention captured by this. I think a quilt is sort of actually like a puzzle, except you end up with something permanent at the end of it.
Yeah, not always pretty. That's the problem. I feel like there's a lot of bad deeds that go down in the quilt world.
Well, no, there's a lot of bad deeds that go down in all crafting worlds.
This is true.
There's a lot of bad deeds that go down in not in the don't craft at all worlds.
But see, when I did design this quilt fabric, I went down to the big quilt market. It was Salt Lake City, had the booth and the whole thing. Met all of the A-list quilt fabric designer celebrity people, which was hilarious. They really, it was
well, they're people who know how to get a 1/4-inch seam allowance and not make mistakes.
These were the designers. And they really, it was long lines to get to go see them sort of things. But anyway, you just would walk through and look at some of these things that people have slapped together and brought to market. And Like, wow.
I feel like
some bad stuff.
This is probably
Tackety, ackety.
And this is a situation that I struggle with. Back when I was a child, sometime I decided to make dinner. And it was going to be a big fling that I was going to make dinner. Like the fact that I was like, how about I feed us tonight? I can't recall what we ate, except that it was too much and it didn't go together. Like, I'm pretty sure that there may have been twice baked potatoes, but also Doritos on the menu. Who knows what the main dish was? A calzone? I mean, it was some extensively not thought out things. But it was like my first time through the concept of what would be good to have on the table at the same time. And later on, in a more finessed way, I remember Mom being like, "Great job, Rachel. Maybe next time we can pare back some of the side dishes." Who knows? Who knows what offerings were out on the table that night? If only we'd taken a picture. But later on, I have found when I would do catering things, and even when you're doing Sabbath or doing whatever regular hospitality entertaining opportunities you have, don't try to make everything the standout dish. And because the reality is, a lot of the food on a plate or the things that go with it need to be support roles. It's like nobody wants to have a concert of a bunch of lead sopranos singing kind of against each other at the same time. Like, you actually need the less thrilling counterparts.
Sure.
Which is why sometimes, say you're doing like a blackened jerk salmon or something, like something that's going to be, that you don't want to also do a roasted scallion hot pepper potato mash or something, because it starts to get like, you actually want that to have a counterpoint.
Well, it's like in makeup, you're not supposed to
dark eye and dark lip.
Don't do eyes and mouth.
Pick a thing, and then once you've picked it, just stick with that and let it be the main. Let the main message be that you did a dark eye today, not that you're doing everything dark today. And anyways, that happens with quilts, I think, and this is the thing that's interesting, is that if I look at a quilt that I think is really lovely, sometimes when I'm actually looking at it up close, I don't actually care for some of the parts of it. Like, I'm like, that is kind of boring, or this is kind of stupid, or whatever. But I like the finished piece. I think I'm sometimes just really aware that I don't.
I think what we're trying to say is, it's not enough to be an engineer when you come to making a quilt.
Yeah, but it's better to be an engineer who tries to make a quilt.
No, but I mean, you have to have some sort of artistic sense about it.
I don't know, Beck. I'm going to argue with you, because I think that there's...
You just finished saying that, so I'm going to argue back that is what you just said.
I wouldn't say it's not enough to do it. I think that...
No, that you could have every corner match perfectly, and at the end of the day...
It could miss its soul.
Yeah, you missed the soul because you had too many competing oranges and blacks in there, or something. Like, it has to all sing together, and that's the part...
But sometimes it's also the part that I'm really, like, at my needle point, I'm really interested by the fact that I dislike the colors of the yarns.
Oh, sure. You wouldn't have ever picked those.
I would never pick those. But I love, like, I know it's someone's better eye for the color wheel than mine, that they composed yarns, like individual colors that when put together look incredibly vibrant.
Yeah.
But I would not have thought that was how you would accomplish that.
Right.
I would have been like, that's interesting. Right. I would never have picked a kind of subdued sage green to make an electric thing.
I'll tell you what I keep staring at is an ad that social media pitched to me, and I've watched it now.
Now it'll haunt
you. A number of times. Well, I think it's like if you watch it, you're just bookmarking it for later. You'll still be able to buy it because it'll follow you around. And I think I'm going to have to buy it, particularly if I have another lumpy gravy day. I'm going to have to just hurry up and order it. But it's like the punch hook embroidery, or the punch hook thing that you have.
A punch needle?
Yeah, punch needle, but it's a little tiny embroidery one.
I have that.
So you can do your embroidery all from the top side. And I feel like I kind of want to...
Yeah, I have...
kind of want to sally forth and order one of those.
I own it.
All right. Well, you have a sourdough starter that works too, so...
Let's not be too hard on me just because I'm so successful.
Remember that old hair shampoo commercial or something that was like, don't hate me because I'm beautiful?
Oh!
That's what Rachel's saying right now.
That's what I'm doing. Don't hate me because I already own the punch needle embroiderer.
She just tossed her hair right over her face.
I didn't. I think I deserve a little hair glory after last week with the bread tie. Somebody sent me a picture of their bread ties asking if I needed them for my Etsy shop. I didn't. I haven't even used a bread tie since that time.
Well, I just feel like it's a little silly. I'm still trying to dig out a whole bunch of stuff at my house, but I have finished, I finished some throw pillows that had been lurking unfinished for a long time.
I have to do that. I haven't done it yet.
I got a little chair upholstered that I had been meaning to upholster.
I'm getting rid of, I've cleaned things out that I can safely say now I don't need. Where I'm like, this is not part of my needs now.
Yeah, my thing is we've been working on the kitchen, so I got my tiles enough for the baking nook. I got all of the designs on. I got the tiles fired. I got them on the backsplash, but I can't do the other side until there's more structural stuff that needs to be done before I can put the tiles up. I've gotten the drawers that are done. I've gotten those painted. Mm-hmm. But, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be done, but it can't quite yet. So I might have to start a new list of, here's all, I'm saying I might have to go down to tier 2 at this point of things that need to be dug out.
Luke built the piece of our counter that we were.
Yeah, why was he using our table saw last night? What are you guys working on?
The piece of our counter. We saved our leftover flooring bits.
Okay.
We had one piece of our counter, where it runs into where the fridge is, right across the hall from the fridge. Mm-hmm. There's that section where I've just had like a little table or something.
Yeah.
But we've been meaning to put the counter wrapping. Fun. We're gonna do a wood stretch on the counter right there.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. It was going to be a desk space originally, like my cookbooks are there, like a place that you could sit in the counter in the kitchen. But we made the tabletop with a scrap flooring, got it all, and then he was milling, because we were using our oak flooring leftovers. He was milling the groove, that bit off of it for the two sides. So, or the four sides, I guess, but for the side pieces. So, what I was going to say, this is changing the subject here randomly, but I still think it's an important subject, so I want to talk about it. Because in these times of quarantine, there's a lot of dealing with yourself that has to happen. Because there's a lot of the busyness of life and being out and about and having a hectic schedule that keeps you from self-reflection, sort of. Yeah. There's enough distraction going on in life. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really likely that for a lot of our listeners, this is a time that is drawing your attention to sad things, kind of. Drawing your attention to just the things that feel unsolvable or heavy or I don't know, I think in terms of baggage, sin from your past that is haunting you in some way, or how to this just seems like a time when your regular life is not covering up that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things have changed to the point where you're maybe having more time in your own head than you usually would.
Sure.
And anyways, I was just thinking about this, and I was thinking about if you're a Christian and you have sin in your past, that there's a lot of sins that you can be forgiven, but it's not like you lose your memory of having been involved in that sin, or that you lose the effects of the sin, because sometimes that will linger.
Sometimes they stay with you.
And so if there are things like that, I was just thinking, this is what I thought we could talk about a little bit, is more how to deal, like as a Christian, how to deal with things that have been forgiven, but that still feel like they're present in your life a bit. Anyways, the example that I was using when I was talking to someone was that, like, if you've been forgiven that, it's like you have a carcass that got buried in your backyard, and that sometimes you're just going out to dig it up to check if it still smells bad. Like, it's like let's just go revisit that incident and think about it.
Right.
You know, and then feel overcome with guilt and shame again about something that you've already been forgiven, right?
Now, I'm assuming when you say you're already forgiven for it, you mean any necessary other components have already been done to any restitution.
Yeah, like not that you like said, oh, that was a mistake. I'm talking about it's been handled.
There's that's my question, because there's the piece of it where sometimes it lingers because you ask God to forgive you for cheating on your master's thesis, but you actually never went back and confessed it to the proper authorities.
Elsewhere.
But you're saying, assuming that that's all been done.
Okay, I'm talking about I am talking about things like, let's say you were immoral before you got married.
Yeah.
Or let's say that you were using drugs, or you were, things that have a lot, or like you were using painkillers, or you were, like that there was a sin that haunts you in ways that even though it's been confessed and forgiven, you feel like you can't shake it because it's always with you, your knowledge of having been that person, having done that thing.
Right.
And I was, anyways, in thinking about this, I was just thinking about how, as a Christian, and I here's what I think happens, and I don't just, they're the cutest little birds back here. What I think happens to people is that that Christ can actually handle this all the way. So when you find evidence of it, you feel like you didn't do it right or something. You know what I mean? Like you feel like you're not really a Christian, or this wouldn't still...
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about at all? Like that there's just a lot of room for self-doubt and heaviness, or like, I'm not like the other Christian ladies who are not weighed down by this, or I don't have, I'm the only one who seems to not be able to get past this, or whatever. Anyways, I was just thinking about the difference between marking your sins in your life, like treasures that you have to go check on all the time in the backyard, and instead building a God-glorifying garden on top, like in faith that it has been forgiven, leaving it alone. Do you know what I mean? Like, and moving on to actually not like gonna go keep checking if it's gone, but instead in faith, what can I build in the confidence of forgiveness? In place of this. And I was just thinking about that because I do think that this is a pretty spiritually heavy time.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I think it's definitely a time, and there's no way it's not shaking a lot of dust off of a lot of things in people's lives.
Oh yeah, because it's.
But I think in some other ways there are some sins that maybe are rearing their heads again that you hadn't really put to death, that came back at you.
Yeah, but that's for sure true. But I guess the thing I was trying to think of is, what would you say practically to people? That's like when you're tempted to go relive old sins.
I think that you should say to yourself, I'm right now committing a different kind of sin, and I'm going to turn from this one like I'm turning from those, or I have turned from those, which is getting super introspective and riddled with guilt when actually you know that God has promised forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It's you deciding to not believe him right now. And that's a thing that you should stop doing.
Yeah,
you know? So I think, like, if you treat it as something that you need to stop, like, this is actually, well, you know what it's like. Maybe I've said this before on the podcast, but I remember when I was little, we were living on Anna Street. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like I was really little, and Mom and Dad would put me to bed, and then I would hear Mom doing the dishes. And I decided that what was happening was she was packing them all up in a box, and they were going to leave me. And Dad would, like, go to put on a record. And I remember the sound of him, like,
fiddling around
through the records. And I was sure that he was putting all the records in a box, and that would be it. They're going to leave me. And I would get really scared that, and every little piece of evidence that they were still in the house was actually further evidence that they were about to leave the house. Because I could hear Mom in the kitchen. That meant that she was about to leave.
You were a cynic.
I could hear Dad in the living room. That meant he was about to leave. And I remember that being a thing. And I don't know how long I did it. I know that it was multiple nights. I don't know if this is all in 1 week.
That's so much like a kid, though, to go on a hot streak of some weird thing like that.
Yeah, and so the thing is I remember just being real sad that they would ditch me like that.
If they loved me, they'd just stay here night after night, but instead, they're obviously leaving.
And so then apparently, the thing that shook me out of it was they were trying to reassure me and tell me, of
like,
course,
no,
we would never do that. And of course, and Becca, why would you ever think we would leave you? And I think they tried reassuring me for a few nights. And then when I persisted in my ways, I remember Dad saying, Becca, you are lying about us. Like, you're telling lies about your mom and about me. And I was like, oh.
And what's worse is you're believing them.
And the thing is I didn't ever do it again after that. And I actually I remember doing it. I don't remember that conversation, but I know that that's the thing that he told me that popped me out of it. And I think that that's a similar...
Yeah, it is.
It's a similar thing where it's like, do you believe that God has forgiven you for that sin? Well, stop telling lies about him then.
And also stop acting like, stop acting like his forgiveness is actually something that he did to throw it in your face all the time.
Yes, but what I mean is, like, in the same way that I was capable of taking all the evidence that they were still there and flipping it into they're not going to be in a minute, I think the same thing can happen. You can look at all the evidence of God's goodness in your life, and you can weave that into the narrative of how you're not actually forgiven. Yeah. And so I think that's where...
Well, this is an example of also... This is a place that wives can be terrible. Like, you can do that so easily to your husband and think that you're, like, trying to make him prove something that he should not be having to prove to you because, you know, like you're saying, the evidence of them being there is when you're accusing them of not being there. Do you know what I mean? Like, thinking, and I think that's really easy to do in any situation where love is involved, where, like, commitment and love is involved. And also what you said reminded me of when I was pregnant with Shad, and I was just sure something was wrong. Like, I was having the premonitions. And they were not meaningful, and I was, for the most part, not involved in it. But I was like, it's my 6th pregnancy. Like, I just felt like I was due for something bad. Right? Like, I had it too easy. Like, I had twins that were healthy. I had, like, it just felt like I was due for, like I was a statistic that had run out of gas, and it was time for my bad statistic. Yeah. And, but Luke used that analogy, actually, being like, it is just like saying, that, well, my parents have fed me every day and provided for me every day so far and loved me so far. So any minute they're going to lock me in the bathroom and starve me. Like now is the time when the fatal blow will fall. Like this is what this has all been about.
My lucky streak will
end. And it was it was so funny because I really needed to think of it that way and realize that, like, no, obviously God doesn't treat us that way. And if there was a hard providence coming, he would provide for it. It would be part of his loving care for us, not like a switcheroo into something else. I don't know. I guess I would just try to think of practical tips that I would tell people for dealing when you're feeling too much in your own head and too much in your own past and in your own...
You know how sometimes you just really need to change the channel?
Yeah. Like, switch the radio station?
Switch the radio station. If the radio
station... set your mind on things above.
Yeah. And genuinely, like, turn it off. I know Ben uses this example in his lordship classes, but... he talks about how if you spend your time saying, I can't think about this, you know, like if you're not allowed to think about rabbits, I think is his example. So you spend all your time saying,
concentrating on rabbits.
Stop thinking about rabbits. Stop thinking about the way they hop around.
Isn't it the game that our kids play?
Stop thinking about, I think that's frogs, but anyway.
No, not the rabbits. The game where...
That's frogs, I think.
Frogs.
Yeah.
I just remember that all it is that all they say is, I lost the game.
Yeah.
I lost the game because you lose it by remembering that you're playing it.
Yeah, but if you spend all your time being like, I can't think about their little ears and I can't think about the tail, stop thinking about the hopping.
Oh, no.
And then the way their little nose wiggles, like, stop thinking about that. And it's like you actually can't stop thinking about something by concentrating on not thinking about it.
I snorted and yawned in one episode.
If you instead were to begin thinking about pelicans and you were to start thinking about the way they behave, then that's actually a good way to stop thinking about rabbits.
Infinitely more effective.
But as long as you are focusing on not thinking about it,
yeah, and
it's
actually,
not
I think
going to work.
I think there's a few good flags that you can think of like things that you should just be like, that's a good sign to change the station.
Yeah. But that's what I mean by change the station. Don't sit and tell yourself all about
and
the ways
don't try to turn it into a void. Like, I'm gonna think of nothing because I can't think of rabbits.
Fill your mind with something else. Like, don't, like, if you're
be
dwelling...
busy then.
Yeah, if you're dwelling on the old sin, then the way you're gonna pull out of that nosedive is not by telling yourself, don't think about it. Don't think about the way that you snorted cocaine back in the day. Whatever it is. Like, don't think about all the bad consequences of the time.
Yeah.
Just change the channel.
I'm just going to say another really popular way to reflect too much on the wrong radio station is to relive conversations of when other people were unkind to you.
Well, that's a terrible thing to do anyways.
Yeah, but it's also muy popular. And if you find yourself ever having one of those little saucy conversations with someone in your head where you're telling them what for and you're getting your comebacks polished up. You should have a moment right then to be like, cancel that. Not
if you're
good.
living too much in your imagination like that, where you're imagining the situation where you can unleash that comeback that you had worked on, you know, that's
or
just...
even if you're just quoting what other people said that you didn't like to yourself in a worser if you're tone of voice.
Like, basically, if you found the worst parts of the movie and you just watch that little 2-minute clip over and over and over and over and over in your head, it's just unhealthy. It's like every part of it is bad.
Just do something else.
Yeah.
Do something else.
Do something productive. And don't sit and tell yourself not to do that. Get up and go do something else.
One of the reasons that I got into knitting when I had the passel of children, when they were little, was the fact that it was mentally challenging, and that I would sometimes, like when I was giving them a bath, I can remember trying to figure out how you would shape a shoulder. Or how would you do this? Like, it was a mental puzzle that I would think about, and then I would periodically research briefly during the day, and then I would finally get my chance to try it, and I would try it. And the thing is that it was good to keep your head on a channel that was not, I've been working all day. I'm so tired. Nobody here offers me cheese. I just have to offer them cheese. Everybody spills the craisins and steps on them in this house because nobody cares about me. I'm like, another dirty diaper. It's only been an hour and a half since the last dirty diaper I had to change.
For a little relief, I'll turn on Facebook and read about all the atrocities of the world.
Yes, and then I will actually just was hearing from...
And then research those atrocities.
Yeah, I just was... Oh, my gracious, googly moogly. Somebody recently was messaging for... Somebody was looking for help in dealing with someone else, so this was a little further removed. But it was someone who if what I gathered briefly was correct, it was a woman who was out hunting all acquaintances who may have used a vaccine to tell them they are no true Christian, and they are... Yeah, I mean, it was someone who has clearly lost all sense of proportion in what are the main things that we should spend our time doing. And, you know, like just where you've really, but the reality is that's what happens when you have your mind on an unfruitful channel, and then you're at every free moment going to freshen up on more outrages to fuel that fire, instead of just trying to be productive and, you know, putting your mind in a different channel. The other channels are more fruitful channels. Yeah. And productive things. Yeah. My most recent channel is these random thoughts about quote blocks. You know, where you're like, whoa, I think I figured something out I never figured out before. This is really interesting. And I also got new yarn for a new weaving project, so that's exciting. Well done, you. Yeah, it'd be better if I was getting it all done, not just thinking of getting it done. Yeah, I still have to teach classes from far afield. And I'll tell you my real deep fear. I have to make these videos. To make a video, post a video. Make a video, post a video. And did I already say this on the podcast? I know that they're all listening to me at double the speed. And I'm going to be the Alvin and the Chipmunk happening. Yesterday I was like, don't you people do that to me. Don't you listen to me on double the speed. And I was definitely getting the like, we did it. Oh, I definitely... My kids have been doing it. It's like, it's so rude. It's so uncharitable to listen to a person on 2 times the speed. That is uncharitable. I know. I feel like it's a violation of basic Christian justice principles. Okay, so I did have a tip as we're ending. I was going to say this should be our tip. Good. I'm glad you remembered that, because I had a mental note to have that be our tip. So, as you all maybe know, our brother, N.D. Wilson. N for noodle. D for duck duck. Wilson. Yes. He has the Ashtown Burial series, which would be a great thing to read in quarantine. Yeah, you should. For everyone, you should read it yourselves. It's great. Yes. So he wrote. It is called the Ashtown Burial series, and book 4 has been causing people gloom and sadness for a long time by not having come out yet. Yeah, the end of book 3. There was a big shuffle around his publisher. I actually don't know what all went into that, but it is a series that is short 1 book. We gotta get the final book. So he's doing something that is so super fun. But Random House is being difficult about it, I think, and so that was why they're doing it this way. So what he's doing that is really going to be fun is subscriptions to get the book in actual newsprint, like newspaper installments, like a periodical of getting the book.
Chapter by
chapter. So
as they are completed.
So it will be like what Dickens used to do, sending people having his next chapter in each newspaper or whatever. So I just think that this is something that you should all sign up for because it's super fun. So
but there is a due date on it, and he has to get a certain number for this to happen.
He's up to 1,000, and I think he needs 2,000 to make the print runs worth doing. So this is what how many issues will there be? The answer is that he's writing it until it's done. So he's not sure. He will be writing it as it comes out. What exactly do I get? You get a physical issue of the Silent Bells mailed to your doorstep as the draft is written. You get to hang in the kitchen while the first draft of a long-awaited novel comes out of the oven all hot and fresh. Most importantly, you get to make sure that this novel comes into existence at all. Without you, Ashtown fans, and your glorious persistence, this would be the series finale that never was. Then, let's see, he's just saying this is a limited edition. This is a limited serial edition, so it's not going to be available if you don't sign up for it now. So where you want to go is ashtownburials.com. I need to go and sign up. I'm realizing...
Ashtown.
What kind of nonsense have I been about that I haven't done that yet? ashtownburials.com. Go sign up. Your kids will love getting newspaper chapters of a novel in the mail.
And it's like $3, I think, and you'll be charged
as they ship.
So it's like $3 for this to be mailed to you.
Yeah, so fun. And you need it. Buy one for all your friends.
But you have to do it right now because I think the deadline is Monday.
Yeah, so go do it. And I know
we're going to have multiple copies coming to our house.
Yeah, I better sign up for it real quick while I'm talking about it. How many copies? What do I need? How many kids do I have? 7 copies?
Yeah.
I know everyone's going to want their own edition.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it'd be fun for each of the kids to have their own little stash of these things.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be
that's
rad.
what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah, do it. And if you haven't read the first 3, get on that horse and ride.
Yes. All right. So,
everyone,
have a good time. Be more interesting than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fare thee well.